Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and this week on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, we meet faith-based film director Kyle Roberts and producer Kim Dawson of the first 3 Ninja Turtle movies. We talk about their new faith-based film, What Rhymes with Reason, plus scripture and nerdy news, and we'll get to all of that right after this.
Hey guys, this is Ashley Cox from Fangirling Over Jesus. At FOJ, we believe in hope and light in the darkness and that you are not alone. We seek to unite and celebrate the intersection of the gospel and our favorite fandoms, and we get to do this through our social media, our podcast devotional, and our cosplay and fashion. And you can find links to all of that through our website, www.fangirlingoverjesus.com, through our social media at FangirlingOverJesus, wherever you get your podcasts, and on Etsy. See you online. And lead me on to your kingdom come, surrendering, let your work be done. My life I give for the glory of your Son.
Before we get started, I wanted to let you know a little bit about this special episode. Kyle and Kim's new film deals with teen depression, and there is some discussion of suicidal thoughts and helping those in this situation. If you're sensitive to this subject or have young listeners with you, you might want to skip this week's episode or stop listening before we get to the interview. If you are dealing with these kind of issues, I encourage you to dial 988 and talk to somebody about what you're going through right now. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to the Christian Nerds Unite podcast every week. As you know, we're part of the Christian Nerd HQ podcast network, and we drop new content every weekday. Christian Nerds Unite on Mondays, Tatooine Sons on Tuesdays, Fangirling Over Jesus on Wednesdays, The Reverend and the Reprobate on Thursdays, and the Speaking Nerdy podcast every Friday. Go to ChristianNerdHQ.com to follow all the podcasts and check out the Christian Nerd HQ YouTube channel for even more great content. Now let's read some scripture. Psalm 34, 17 through 20. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. The righteous person may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones. Not one of them will be broken. I want to be clear about this passage. This passage does not say that the believer will not have issues. Troubles and issues will come. Believers will have times of brokenheartedness, but God will be with us walking through it. I believe the biggest issue between a believer and an unbeliever going through hard times like this is their hope in the future and the comfort of knowing God is near. My wife and I have had a lot of struggles over the past few years, and as many of you might notice, this episode's actually coming out late because my wife was in the hospital the last couple of days. But our faith in God has helped us persevere through all of it. I pray that you will take time this week, even in the midst of your struggles, to thank God for being there with you through it all. Now for some nerdy news. The Nun 2 tops the box office for a 3rd weekend in a row, only adding $8.4 million to its domestic gross, with new release Expendables close on its heels with $8.3 million domestically. And yeah, you heard that right. They replaced the A in Expendables with the number 4 because this is the 4th one in this series, kind of like the Fantastic 4 movie a few years ago. A Haunting in Venice and The Equalizer 3 come in 3rd and 4th respectively, and Barbie is still clinging on to 5th place for the weekend. Another relatively low box office weekend. But it does look like this will end up still being the best domestic box office year since the pandemic, just beating out last year barely. Writers Guild of America has reached a basic agreement with the studios and streamers. After a weekend of negotiations, the parties have come to a tentative deal on a new contract that could end the 146-day strike. In a statement, the WGA said it was an agreement in principle on all deal points, subject to drafting final contract language. We can say with great pride that this deal is exceptional, with meaningful gains and protections for writers in every sector of the membership. The final deal still needs to be written and approved by all the parties. The Hollywood Reporter states, in the meantime, the WGA has suspended picketing while reminding members that no one is to return to work until the union gives the green light. Marvel's Disney Plus series Loki Season 2 has had a slight release date change. Much like the recent Star Wars series Ahsoka, they have moved the release date up to the evening before. Loki will be releasing on Thursday, October 5th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Disney has not confirmed that this is a plan for all future shows, but with the second major release making this change, it could be something we will see in many future releases. Well, this week we talked to director Kyle Roberts and producer Kim Dawson. Their new film, What Rhymes with Reason, is releasing October 10th through Fathom Events in 800 theaters. They share about their faith and why this film is needed right now. Let's get right into our interview. Kyle Roberts and Kim Dawson, it is so great to have you on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast today.
Thanks for having us on, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you. What a treat.
I'm super excited about this. Now, Kyle and I go way back. We've been connected for quite some time, but this is the first time I've met you, Kim.
Yes.
Super excited to have you on as well. But first of all, give us just a little background of who each of you are. We'll start with Kyle. So Kyle, you are a film director, but tell us kind of who Kyle Roberts is and why somebody might have heard of you in the past.
Yeah, I'm a white Caucasian male film director. Your typical white boy. No, I love to create. Right, so like we kind of got our start just kind of playing with action figures. We made a Ninja Turtles action figure, and that's kind of how Kim and I got acquainted with each other. But started doing those stop motions. They took off. Then I did commercial work for 7 years, and now we're making my second feature, What Rhymes with Reason, kind of back to our own stories, our own IP, and something that's really exciting for us.
Very cool. And this one's a live action feature versus doing a lot of stop motion stuff that probably some of our nerdy fans have actually seen before, but they might not realize is you. So right. I'll put some of the links down in the show notes for some of those old things.
Absolutely.
So Kim, tell us a little bit about Kim Dawson.
Well, I'm the old guy on the team. That's for sure. I met Kyle about I think 3 or 4 years ago through we have a mutual friend by the name of Jay Shanker, who's an attorney that I've worked with for many years. And Jay was my turtle attorney. I was fortunate enough to produce the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies 1, 2, and 3 back in the late 90s and late 80s and early 90s. I live in Orlando. I moved here to produce the Mickey Mouse Club from Los Angeles when they were opening Disney MGM Studios. I had the opportunity to work on that project, and that sort of introduced us to the Southeast, which I'd visited here before, but I'd never really spent a lot of time. And doing the Mouse Club, and then right on the heels of that, we did the Turtle films, and they were kind of like 1, 2, and 3 right after one another, and that just gave us the opportunity to stick around in Florida and be part of this community. And I've worked in primarily in this area, but I still have a lot of connectivity to Los Angeles, so I'm blessed to do that. I made a movie back in 2011, I think it was, called Letters to God, which was my first faith-based film. And then we followed that up with a movie called To Write Love on Her Arms, which is very similar in topic to What Rhymes with Reason. It was a little bit harder edge. It was about a girl who was a cutter and had tried to commit suicide a couple of times. And so I became very familiar with the topic. And when Kyle told me about What Rhymes with Reason, it really resonated with me because I have 3 children of my own and 2 8-year-old grandkids, twins, who are obviously going to confront all the issues that come out in this film. So, as it turns out, I've been super blessed to be in this business. I really don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but every day is a blessing, and I wake up with new eyes and kind of new opportunities. It seems.
Awesome.
This guy, he's so cool. Like, you guys hear all this? You forgot all these other things with MTV shows and ABC and ESPN. And it's like he produced most of our childhood, folks. If you're watching,
yeah,
that's so cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about this film. So, What Rhymes with Reason is kind of the thing that that made me reach out again and say, "Hey, Kyle, we need to get you on the show." So talk to me a little bit about, what rhymes with reason, and what kind of things are we going to hear in this film? You don't have to spoil it for us, but what is that all about, and how did this whole thing start?
Well, everybody dies. No, I'm just kidding. So what happens is there's a tragedy. It's kind of the loose synopsis. There's a tragedy that happens with this high school group of 6 kids, and it ignites them to go on this journey into the wilderness, in its Oklahoma wilderness of all places, to find this legendary landmark that's hidden in the wilderness. So throughout this journey, we kind of use that as this metaphor, of this adventure metaphor, to talk about adolescence, to talk about some of the darknesses they're facing, whether that is anxiety or depression or thoughts of suicide, kind of thing. So it's totally this really fun, family friendly, adventure movie on one side, but also we go there at times too. And we talk about things that we need to talk about. One of the stats we share is the number 2 cause of death in the US from 10 to 18-year-olds is suicide. Is taking their life. And I have a 10-year-old daughter. And so I'm really excited for one of our screenings. Her and a lot of her friends, she's been passing out stickers at her school and stuff. But, like, I think 40 of her friends, are coming
Wow.
and with their parents, too. So that's kind of what this film is about, is to watch with your parents, experience this together, and have these conversations together.
And other than seeing some connections from some other works you've worked on, Kim, what made you think this is a project I really need to be attached to?
Well, first of all, it was Kyle. I really wanted to work with Kyle and support his dream here and his vision about bringing the story to life. When I read Sean's script, which Kyle and Sean Thiessen have been working on this project for, I don't know, a number of years. Right?
I didn't say this earlier, but I either read the first draft or the second draft of this script back when I was semi-attached to the film, before it really got rolling, and before my wife got ill. So
Right.
I'm actually curious to see how much it's changed since that script.
Well,
but I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kim, but go ahead.
Writers never really finish their process. They just abandon it to production. That's been my experience. And in this case, the topic just resonated with me. I think that it was always felt very authentic, and it wasn't forced. And so when I read the script, and then I saw the materials that Kyle had created around it, not just to raise money, but also to kind of activate this community around the topic. I continue to be impressed by the amount of detail that everybody in this project has brought to it. They've left no stone unturned in terms of how you make a movie, but then also how you promote a movie and market a movie with very little resource relative to Hollywood budgets and so forth. These guys, I mean, and that's the thing that I think impressed me when I first went up for a scout and met Kyle and the team. I was impressed by how dedicated they were to their craft, and also the fact that everybody was going to join in on the team. It wasn't going to be like there's a director over here and the electrics over here. Everybody kind of came together as a team, and they all those barriers between crafts or whatever were dissolved. They didn't exist. Everybody was like it reminded me of filmmaking back in the day when I was first getting into it, when people just helped one another, when it was all about the end product rather than my ego. And I felt like from the first time I met Kyle and Jacob and the rest of the team, everybody checked their ego at the door. It was always about the benefit of the project and trying to move it forward. So, yeah.
Very cool. Now, Kyle, you have some interesting some films that you really love that have inspired you. Now, how does that kind of play into some of the work you've done in the past and some of the? I know you're a John Hughes fan,
right?
Just a little bit of a John Hughes fan. Are we going to see some of that John Hughes influence in this film?
I think so. I think so for sure. As you know, I mean, a lot of press actually compared me to John Hughes when they saw Post-Human Project and were reviewing it, which was wild for me. At that time, being 29 years old and having this first feature and having all that heat, but. Yeah, I mean, John Hughes is a major influence. We also took a lot of influence from Stand By Me and Goonies in this film. And a lot of, just research and almost from the faith side, I like to say Footloose is a good faith adjacent movie because there's faith, throughout the whole film of the preacher in the town and, everything that's going on. And Kevin Bacon's quoting Ecclesiastes, to get their prom, while not being a Christian movie, kind of thing,
right?
Is throughout the whole movie. And so that's why I like to compare when people ask me, like, what does faith adjacent mean? Because that's what I would call this film. And more than anything, it's a cause-based film, like A Sound of Freedom, kind of thing.
And how much input did you have, Kim, into were there changes made because you came on, or was there, what kind of things were you able to make this movie more than what Kyle had originally intended?
I think my biggest contribution was just being there and being part of this team because, I feel, a bit as a mentor in a sense, and it's more about attitude and approach to things. I like to think of myself as a calm person and not getting too flustered by whatever it is. And when you get into production, every day is like you're spending money, and if things go wrong, I really didn't have to work very hard because the truth is that everybody was of that same mindset. It was a very calm, quiet, sort of, really dedicated group of people who approached this thing. But, I think in the end, it's such a collaborative process that my contributions, I don't know if you'll see anything on the screen, but I feel like I've made a new family. It's a secondhand family, to be sure, but in doing that, whether it's cast members or crew members, I'm coming back to Oklahoma to make another movie as soon as the strike ends. That's the truth, and I really love the opportunity to work with, particularly with young people. I get a kick out of this up and coming generation, not just of filmmakers, but the people who surrounded it, and whether it was whether the people who own the stages at Green Pastures or just the Cameron, the caterer. He's amazing. I mean, all these folks were just, and I learned a great deal. Believe me, I'm a lifelong learner. I've always felt like there's every day wakes up with a new opportunity to learn something new, and I did. Every single day I went to the set, I was able to basically learn new stuff, not just about filmmaking, but about human relations, if you will. Yeah.
And he's
Awesome.
also being way too humble. I wasn't behind the curtains like he was and other producers, but everyone told me how sharp Kim is. And so it's a lot, maybe some other producers would come in as seasoned as he is and kind of just be a producer title, maybe say a few things. And Kim was on it. Like I've heard all the SAG stories and some of the other things that he's just helping, bring all of his knowledge and get on calls, help him with paperwork, all kinds of stuff that's just
Well,
needed.
and the one job I had, which was really cool, was being able to shoot with my iPhone a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Where I sort of had license to be among cast members when they were, and then we were wrapping stuff or whatever it was, and I feel like that rapport was I mean, it was a blessing for me, but I felt like every time I turned, there were big smiles on people's faces, and people just had a blast working on the project, despite the somewhat heavy subject matter at times. Because this is a very real issue or issues, I should say, that confront these young people. And the thing that impressed me the most about how Kyle drew those emotions out of these kids is that they came super well prepared. Everybody, and none of them knew one another before we started. But within 2 or 3 days of arriving in Oklahoma City, it was like there was this whole brand new family, and it was an amazing support group. That if you could take the sort of emotions and feelings that were on that set and translate them into real life, we'd be a much better place. I really believe that. I think that the cast members in particular you'll see it in their performances, but it rippled right through every department in the film, whether it was the COVID lady or the
there it is. Yeah.
In that world, patience is a hard thing to grasp onto, and everybody just sort of packed their patience, and it was a brilliant opportunity. Really, it was.
Ricky, I could tell that the cast truly loved each other, and that was really cool. So, Kim, you've experienced this so many times. That's kind of a worry sometimes, right? It's like you're getting all these people together, they have a bunch of different personalities. We don't know how they're going to gel.
Yeah,
I think it's going to work, but we don't know, right? Like that every single project. And they just did. One of the things we did is the guys lived in a cast house together. I mean, it was pretty much a mansion. I mean, it was a nice home, but they loved it. I was worried about that, and we had experienced that on the Nerf show we did the year before, where LaRon Marzay, one of our leads, was on the Nerf show, and that was the show. Is they lived together and they did challenges, Nerf challenges together, whatever. But that's kind of what gave me the idea of it was kind of a budgetary thing of what you would normally do, Kim, is have them all in their own hotel rooms, different places, different things, but then they're isolated, right? So I was just, at a short shoot, we had an 18-day shoot in 16 different locations.
Wow.
So we're like, that was just the idea of what if, let's ask them if they're okay with this, but what if they all just shared a house? The guys shared a house together, and it seemed like they loved it. I mean, you talk to them about it, and they loved every minute of it, and they're hanging out and rehearsing lines and just gelling together. So I don't know if it'll work for everything, but it worked for this. Sure.
So what were some of the struggles of making this particular film happen? And I'll just leave that to either one of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of them. The how many locations we had. If you talk to Michael Caradonna, our first AD, or Nathan Gardaki, who ended up being our line producer / UPM something. But he was so great in keeping us all together, right? But I mean, that's a challenge. So some days, we have a company move, and we're at Red Rock Canyon, and then we're going to Wichita Mountains the same day. And that's a pretty big, company move in our 18-day shoot. Especially when one of our actors go to the wrong place.
Oh no!
Which is
that did happen once or twice.
But that was a challenge. We're filming all over Oklahoma, so even if you see the trailer, it looks like this pretty great, adventure movie in the wilderness, and we're going all over Oklahoma, to capture this, and that was a huge challenge to do in 18 days.
Yeah, and truly without any ability to go overtime. We hadn't, there was not enough money to keep shooting if you needed to keep shooting. So Kyle measured his days really, really well. Michael was a brilliant AD, I must say, and kept things on track. That whole AD team were with Trudy and all the others were fantastic. And I think that's the thing that impressed me the most is the level of professionalism that everybody brought every single day, and they were all on it. And oftentimes with cast members, because they hadn't had a chance to rehearse to speak of, that's you have to get ramped up. And in this case, every single actor came prepared, and maybe they were doing it at the house, but in some cases they really didn't have that luxury. But somehow or another, they figured it out, and they got through the works every morning on time. The hair and makeup department did their job perfectly, and there were some challenges, of course, but there was all this sort of camaraderie that said, if you need help, I'm here to help. And that's what that was the overarching ethic for me. And it's sort of like what the message in the film is, because the characters are from different walks of life. They're not, their lives are way different. The character Billy is this total, on the surface, social media influencer and big time. He's the BMOC, if you will. But he has all the doubts and stuff that come with that, but he's, and in real life, Ricardo he's an amazing Christian to start with. He's a true believer and one who doesn't just, walk the walk, or talk the talk rather. He walks it and brings it. And he was ministering to people throughout the project, as were, a lot of people, not in an aggressive way, but rather if there was people needed help or whatever understanding, they were there. There was just a sort of a very, I hate to say it, but it was very Christ-like on the set because of that. People had respect and honor for one another, and I think that even though there were times when you were going, come on, let's move along, Michael was that guy. He was the one who had to, kind of keep us all on track, and he did a brilliant job and never really lost it. I've known a lot of ADs who completely lose it at times, and directors who do the same, this was a calm, sort of very cool and collected group of people who just, they saw the end result and they worked for it daily. Yeah.
I feel like everyone understood what we were doing and that it matters. A few times we had people even come right before we started filming. It won't take too much of our day, but share a little bit of their life or their experience, or like if their children had taken their lives, or someone they knew, or just share a little bit of their story and why they're so passionate about this. And I feel like it wasn't just a job; it was it matters. And I feel like we could feel. I could feel that from everybody on set too.
Now, this has been a project that's been ongoing for quite some time. How long did it really take for you to make this? Now, I know you said it was only an 18-day shoot, which is crazy short for a feature production. But how long did it realistically take you to actually make this film from the beginning?
Yeah, I think it's been an 8-year journey. Just from ideation, right? So part of that is just Sean and me for years, trying to craft this together and figure out what this looks like, what this feels like. We did a lot of research, talking to counselors, teachers, parents. And one of the number one things we got back actually was to not show an attempt at suicide, because that can create ideation. And that's what a lot of other shows do, like a 13 Reasons Why or something like that. And it can glorify suicide. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those shows or films. We just wanted and needed a different approach to it that you can watch with your family and can have these conversations that might be safer for a 9 to 10-year-old to watch together and experience together.
Mm.
So yeah, so that was a long process, kind of working on that, but also just fundraising. I mean, this is an independent film and trying to, really talk to, I feel like in Oklahoma anyway, we're at this like crossroads of the business community learning more and more about what the films that are happening, them making money back, all this other stuff, and then the creative side growing and growing. And we're like right there. And so we did find our investors, almost all from Oklahoma, which I'm really proud of. And most of that money comes back and stays here versus going to Hollywood or going to other places.
That's right.
Shows. But yeah, I mean, it's just a process. And we were about to start shooting a couple of years ago, and then COVID happened, and investors backed out because films were shutting down, and that's understandable. I had my own mental health breakdown at that time of it kind of, just shutting down and just, speaking of identity and purpose and everything else. But this, I'm also reassured that this whole thing is God's plan and God's timing. And we couldn't have asked for a better partner to release this film through Fathom Events on World Mental Health Day on 10/10 when it releases, and all these things. So we had no idea. Like, that was the date we scheduled with them. And the next day we had a call with 988, who's our big national partner now. And they were like, oh yeah, October 10th is perfect. And we're like, yeah, I know it's perfect, but why do you think it's perfect? Because it's World Mental Health Day. We're like, oh yeah, awesome. So we knew God was pulling some strings for sure on that. And it's definitely his plan this whole time.
Now, you guys have had you've had some showings. I'm not sure how many, but you've had some showings. What has been the reception so far?
Yeah, we had our world premiere week in June in Oklahoma City. We had our cast in, and we had, that was a lot of fun. But we had five screenings. All of them were sold out, and it was incredible. We had. So one of them turned into like an hour and a half group therapy session after the movie. You go up there as a filmmaker, you go to the bottom and kind of answer questions and share some of why you're passionate about this. And then it just started turning into this like group therapy session. One of them in Tulsa had a group of moms. They called themselves suicide moms, and they had pins of their kids on their shirts. And they just kept saying how thankful they were to us for making this film and making it real and honest, but also family friendly, which is a tall order, right? To do all those things together. Yeah. And I could tell it was coming from a place, they didn't say, maybe they did, Kim, but of like, other shows they're experiencing, other films or shows that are too dark or too edgy or too whatever, that they don't feel like they want to champion or share or support. Right. And this came from a very real place, but we're very thankful that we made it family friendly as well. That's something you can watch and encourage conversations, which is the whole goal from day one. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, I can leave. We're done here. We've, just getting their like validation basically was huge. And every single one of them was talking about different characters in the film, and some were saying how that reminded them of their kids. Some were saying how that reminded them of them. And it was just wild. I mean, we were all up there bawling, talking to them, and it was just, I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, that's the Holy Spirit working already, through this film and through that audience. And absolutely, I cannot wait. So this release is a one night release, right? It's October 10th, 10/10. But it's all throughout the country. It's over 700 theaters. And we just signed a deal where it also get through Faith Content Network, where it's also going to be in, they think, hundreds of churches and schools throughout the country on 10/10. So what I love about that is essentially, I mean, I don't know how many people are going to show up, but the nation is going to kind of gather together in theaters and churches and schools on 10/10 to watch this film together, experience this film together, and really have some much needed conversations, with their kids, and especially teens that don't want to talk about anything, especially serious. And this film, because it is so fun, it is this adventure movie, truly opens up, this door to have these, important conversations together, with your parents, with your youth leader. And I just can't wait to see that happen. I know 988 is actually gearing up for the influx of calls they feel like they're going to experience that night all throughout the country. And I don't know what's going to happen, guys, but I can't wait.
Well, and for those who are not familiar, tell the audience what 988 is.
Yeah. So 988 is the nation's mental health lifeline. So you can text it or call it at any given time. And there is someone professional on the other end waiting to listen to you and hear you. So whether it is a very, it is a thought of suicide or thinking about attempting suicide or something, or literally anxiety that you're feeling, or something, you can call them and they're prepared to look up wherever you're at and get you connected. Whether it's a free service or a paid service or whatever, but get you connected with someone that can help you. Whenever we first had our meeting with them, I called them the next day and I started talking, I lost my mom a couple years ago and I started talking about that, and they would give me some resources of grieving resources in Oklahoma City. And that's actually, Kim, how I got connected to Calm Waters. I don't know if you know that or not, but, and so I was like, I'm already a fan. Let's do this.
And it's a judgment-free zone. That's the thing I think I like most about 988 is because oftentimes when you deal with people who are having difficulty, either with depression or thoughts of suicide or whatever, they're behaving poorly, right? Their outside behavior is such that you go, what's the matter with you? Or what's the matter with that person when you observe it? And 988 amongst, people in this field, check their judgment and say, I want to listen. I want to lean into what it is that you're saying, what you need, rather than judging you for your outside behavior and really finding out what's in your heart, what's going on in your head, because these are confusing times for young people and for, even people like myself who are older, who don't necessarily have all the tools around them to deal with like the issues that get thrown at us. I mean, I have a friend who's a filmmaker who was up in Durham, North Carolina, and she had attended a project, a premiere on Saturday night, and the lady named Nancy Bursky, who she's made a bunch of different movies, and this was a behind-the-scenes look at Midnight Cowboy. It's going to get a lot of attention here in the near future, and she got a standing O. And Monday morning, she went to the dentist, didn't feel well afterwards, and died later that day, right? And my friend who is her producer, was like so disconsolate, and fortunately, I ministered to her and others, but I think that's sort of what you get out of this kind of experience, is that you learn that everybody goes through these issues. It's not like you're isolated unto yourself. And if you're willing to listen, then you'll hear. And what you hear is people who are desperate for to tell their story or to share their experiences, or to, because everybody's looking for a little bit of love in their life. And, when you feel like you're behaving badly, you're not going to get a lot of love. You're going to get a lot of haters on you. And that's what Billy experiences here with his social media, is that he's so concerned about his outward appearance that he sometimes doesn't look back at himself. And there's some great scenes with him and Gatlin, Ricardo Gatlin, they pull off one of the truly memorable scenes in the movie when they're sitting on the mountainside talking about real things that really matter to young people. And I think that's what's going to resonate with the audiences around, and what it'll start these conversations and allow doors to be opened and maybe love to flow in ways that they haven't experienced previously.
Absolutely. If I could add on that real quick, I mean, I think some people may think this generation is the most out there, most perverse, whatever. And that's just not true. They are hungry for something real and something honest. It's all they've grown up with is either hypocrisy or straight up just fake. It's hard for them to discern in a digital age what is real and what is honest. And so when we can provide them with something like this to really open up and encourage these conversations, we hope the next step of that is, is getting, connected with a church or a youth leader, or, calling and getting help. And we have that, we have a QR code at the end of our film where you could go right there and continue these conversations.
Now you're both believers. How has faith played a part in your careers, but as well, how has faith played a part in making this particular film?
What's that old expression that he's seldom early and never late? Yeah, what it does is reinforce the idea that that if you believe that in due time, one, he'll show up and he'll guide you in a way that gives you a pathway forward that you may not have expected, but is the truth. And that's I think what this reinforced for me. This whole experience was that we were all on this path. We really didn't know how it was going to end, and we still don't. But we know it's a path that he's laid out for us, and gives us the ability to kind of share those thoughts. And the thing about faith is that you get rocked at times, but when you have an experience like we had on making this film, it reinforces your faith. It gives you the sense that wow, there's a reason for believing, and that's what I take away from that. The
rhyme and reason, Kim.
Yeah, the rhyme with reason.
No, exactly, and that's kind of how I feel. Is that this whole thing for 8 years or whatever has been a calling. Like, I feel like we all have, as Christians, we all have a calling in our life. Ultimately, that's to share the good news. And as storytellers, this is the way we know how to do it. In a way that is real and honest and impactful. And yeah, just talking about calling and plan. Like, if this was Kyle Roberts' plan, we would have done this in 2 years and it would have been out there into the world. Well, but this is not my plan. It is God's plan. And that's something that I'm reminded, if not daily, weekly, this is not my timing, and this is going to come out. And also encouraged by that too, because I have a feeling God has things in plan that we would have never imagined. And we've already experienced some of those things. Yeah. Even like this Faith Content Network deal that's coming out. It's like, I would have no idea what that looked like and what that meant. It's always been on our heart to show it in schools and just show it in churches. But I didn't know if that was us. Kim, when we were talking about going on a tour or doing some things, it's like, which would be fun, but like, that's crazy. Like, we did a tour of 50, churches, and like literally traveled around like a rock band or something to show this thing and talk about it and everything. It was like, I don't know what this looks like, but I'm here for it. And I feel like that's what our team has done throughout this whole thing, is answered that call. I feel like a lot of times we don't know. The calling is there, but we don't know what this looks like and what this means. It's like, okay, God, we're here. We're answering this thing. Show us something along the way, please, of if this is right and if this is, what we're, called to do. But we can just continuously answering that call, and now we're seeing it.
Very cool. What are your hopes for this film?
Well, I think aside from the theatrical release, where we'll hopefully impress tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, that at some point in time it gets on a streaming service or on a broadcast deal and home entertainment, where it impresses millions of people. And I think that's the opportunity here, is that this film lives on. And it sits on the shelf, and oftentimes gets accessed in ways that we don't expect. And I think that's what it's going to do. It's going to open conversations, open hearts to the issues that young people are facing in particular. But I don't think it's not limited to just young people. I think that every generation is going to get something out of this picture. That was certainly true with that group of suicide moms. These are ladies in their 50s and 60s, if you will, who had trouble. So anyway, I that's my goal. My hope is that it just continues to impress people in big ways. So.
Well, Kyle, where can people find the film? Where can they
Yes.
where can they
Our website is
get more information?
Yeah, our website is wrwrfilm.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook. If you search "What Rhymes with Reason," you'll find it. But we have links to Fathom Events site. Really, if you're looking for tickets, you could go to fathomevents.com. You can go to our website; it's linked to there. You could go to Fandango. Go wherever you get tickets, and you'll be able to search and see if it's in your area. And it's I don't know. I'm kind of blown away by all of
Awesome.
it.
Well, I will put show notes down
Yeah.
I'll put links down in the show notes below.
Yeah.
Make sure you check it out. Make sure you buy tickets. Go see What Rhymes with Reason on October 10th. It's going to be a great experience for everybody. Thank you both so much for being on the show today.
Rick, it's a real pleasure. Thanks. It's nice to meet you.
It was great connecting with Kyle and Kim. I'm very excited about their new film. Make sure you follow the film and get tickets using the links down in the show notes below. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, just click all those links. That way you can keep up with us anytime we put out new content. And you can find all of our social links and links to our YouTube channel and our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. If you really do enjoy the show and want to help even more, consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. All of our Patreon levels have great benefits and make a huge difference in the ministry we're able to do. Supporters will also get to hear exclusive stories of believers we are serving around the world through our ministry partners. To check it out or to partner with us, go to patreon.com/ChristianNerdsUnite or ChristianNerdsUnite.com and click support in the menu. And don't forget to check out ChristianNerdHQ.com for more great podcasts. Before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Philippians 1. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. We'll see you next week. Blessings.